This is Gilbert Andrew Garcia of A Tip from Gilbert, talk, inspiration, and prayer. Listen to my show every Monday from 11 to 12 on KWWJ 1360 AM, KYOK 1140 AM, KCOH at 1230 KCOH.com, Sankeet Radio at 95.1 FM, 1460 AM, and Latino Sports, KEYH 850 AM. Call in at 832-570-8075 and follow me on social media. See you then. All right, Houston and Harris County, you got me, a tip from me, talk, inspiration, and prayer with another great episode, another big show. I brought him back because we didn't get a chance to go into all the things I wanted to talk about the Houston Chronicle and all the great things that they do. And I have Mr. Evan Mintz back. And he's back and better than ever. And so, Evan, thank you for joining us. Again, he is the editorial editor, so the opinion editor of the Houston Chronicle. Way to go, and thank you for being on the show.
Gilbert, thank you for having me. There's no place I'd rather be. I love being here to talk about, we've got an election runoff tomorrow. Yep. I can't wait to talk about that, talk about the Chronicle, and just how we get people the information they need to make the smart choices for them when they go vote.
Let's do that. I want to do one quick thing first because we want to celebrate, of course, our troops. It's Memorial Day. I got a prayer that I found. It's a short one, but nevertheless, it was impactful when I read it. So I'm going to do that real quick. If everybody would sort of listen in and take your hat on if you got one. Lord, hold our troops in your loving hands. Protect them as they protect us. Give them courage for their task and strengthen the families who wait for their return. We pray for their safe return and lasting peace. Amen. Boy, do we need peace more than ever. But it sounds like maybe there's going to be some peace in Iran. Of course, it all goes back to, well, here we go. We think there's peace. It's not peace. But when Marco Rubio says we're close, I don't know. We'll see. What are your thoughts? Have you been reading all the stuff this weekend where it looks like Donald Trump and the president and the leadership of Iran that maybe we're going to have some sort of ceasefire and they'll sort of work on the hard things later about the whole uranium, but they want to open up the strait to be able to get petroleum and oil back into society. Have you been keeping up with all that?
You know, over at the Chronicle, we've been following this closely because it is critical to Houston. It's halfway around the world, but because it impacts oil and gas and other chemicals and other downstream products, it is something that impacts us, Houston, right here.
That's a good point. Please go.
So we've just been following it from day one, saying that it was a bad idea to go into Iran without a real vision about how things could go wrong to be prepared for that. I don't think they were ready for the Strait of Hormuz to be shut down, and it was, even though that was foreseeable. They've been kind of hemming and hawing on striking a deal, but I think that Trump is the sort of person who wants to get where he wants to go and doesn't think about how you actually have to get there. And so at this point, I am once bitten, twice shy of promises of a peace because they keep on making these grand promises, and it turns out there's a huge gap between what they're getting in the headlines and what's actually happening on the ground. And at the end of the day, it seems like they're just going to reinvent the Iran deal that had been brokered under the Obama administration that Republicans rejected. And I think that we have to be honest that either you're going to have some sort of peace with Iran or you're going to have war. And you have to pick one. And if you don't want peace, well, there's only one other way out of this. And it turns out we don't actually want war. So we're back at trying to figure out a peace again. And I keep remembering this quote that sticks in my mind whenever you find yourself dealing with other countries that aren't necessarily our friends, our allies, which is that you make peace with your enemies, you don't make peace with your friends.
Very interesting. And boy, somehow we need to make more peace with our friends because I think, I don't want to say we're losing our friends. We certainly are reshaping our friendships with our, fellow NATO members. It's, the whole bit. It's really difficult to imagine all the young people who gave their lives during World War II, and we set up this framework for peace, which has worked primarily for all these years, and now we're just dismantling that framework.
It's frustrating.
It's very frustrating.
Particularly given that the only time that NATO's Article 5 has been called for everyone to come in and defend ally was to defend us after 9/11. And so now this is an alliance where, yes, we're the biggest one in the room, but people have stepped up for us, and we're not stepping up for them, both, objectively and subjectively, and insulting that and undermining it, not viewing the value of having people with shared values around democracy, around freedom, uniting together, and to be an admirable bulwark against the forces otherwise.
Very good. You know, before we go into the elections, and I know how proud of all the work you've done, and I want to go through it all. And I want to go through essentially, you know, what goes on in the room when it happens, when you know, these endorsements come out. But before we do that, I think Houston, Harris County, I think everyone should know. It looks like we have a caller already. We'll see who that is. I think everyone should know the reach of the Chronicle, because I had put out something. Everybody knows I'm a Parker person. I support Anise Parker, et cetera. And I had, what do you call it, Facebooked and put in the ads. I boosted the endorsement that y'all made of her, which was wonderful. And that's not about the other candidates and the other candidate here, the runoff. But at the end of the day, I had all these responses. Some were just plain outright false. And I would troll the people who were trolling me. And so I would be responding to a lot of these. And then I started doing the facts myself. And it's just interesting that the reach by the Houston Chronicle is staggering. In other words, I remember when it was a newspaper, just a newspaper, and I would love getting it. And I just, you know, I've been getting it for 25, 30 years. But now it's just like worldwide.
Yes.
It really is, because I just saw that, I'm just going to go through it. The total reach for the Houston Chronicle, and that's everything, digital, print, social platforms, etc., is now 2.7 million adults. That is 45% of the Houston market. I mean, there's no one that comes close to that here in Houston. I mean, am I right? There's nobody.
We are the biggest media source in Houston. You look at HoustonChronicle.com, you look at Chron.com, our free site, you look at our newsletters, our social media accounts. We've got more eyeballs than ever looking at our stuff, and it's some of the best reporting I think that we've ever done. If you want to know what is happening in Houston, you go to the Houston Chronicle.
There's no doubt. And going back to more eyeballs, the digital engagement, the websites, Houston Chronicle, everything just said, Chron.com, generates, are you ready for this? Well, you probably know, 125 million page views per month. That's humongous.
Yes.
And it's just staggering, because the average daily readership is 1.1 million people. That's just so huge. You got to be proud of that. I mean, it's amazing.
And the awards that we get are wonderful. We won several awards over this past year already. Some national headliner awards, your local Texas Press Awards. But the things that
Pulitzer Prize awards.
Pulitzer Prize last year, we got Pulitzer Prize.
Yes. Yes, it's humongous.
And also I'll give a shout out this year, Pulitzer Prize, to my colleagues at the Dallas Morning News for architectural commentary. But the real rewards are when we get those letters from people saying, thank you for writing about this. Thank you for tackling this. I'm no more about where I live now because of what you've done. And that's what we want to do. Houston is a city that doesn't do a lot of self-reflection. And sometimes that's admirable. We charge forward, we build, we do new things, we welcome people, we don't ask where you're from. But sometimes we should ask a little bit more about where we, Houston, are. And where do we want to be, and are we getting there? And so that's part of the goal in the opinion section, is to get more people talking about Houston.
Well, you know what? They're talking. There's no doubt. We have a caller right now. Is there Carmen Nuncio? Carmen, are you there? Carmen. Miss Carmen. That was the name of my grandmother.
I'm here.
Carmen, can you hear me?
Yes.
You have me, Gilbert Garcia, with a tip from me, with Evan Mintz of the Houston Chronicle. What do you got for us today for Houston and Harris County?
Well, basically what I wanted to talk to you was about what's going on in HISD with our superintendent. Can you hear me?
We can. Tell us what's going on. I mean, there's a whole lot going on, but what do you have to say? Tell us.
What I've got to say is I don't understand how this superintendent has gotten away with so many things that he has been doing that are harming our kids. I don't understand the things that he's doing. The majority of the things that he's doing are illegal, and yet he gets away with it. And I go to every board meeting once a month, and I tell him, why are you doing this? Why are you lying to the media? Why are you saying, oh, everything's fine and dandy, when it's not? He lies about everything, and to make himself look good.
Wow.
Him and Greg Abbott.
Keep going.
him and Greg Abbott are making billions of dollars off of our kids. And what hurts me is that our kids' education is at stake, and they do not care.
My goodness. Well, let me ask you this. Are you an educator by trade? Were you a teacher?
No, I've been a volunteer with HISD for 51 years.
Wow. Well, first of
And
all, I salute you for your community engagement, for attending the meetings. And so, I mean, that's phenomenal. How are the meetings for someone like me? Listen, I want to know, but I don't know. And I'm going to ask Evan to see if the Chronicle has an opinion on this. But let me just ask you this. When you go to these board meetings, it's the board of managers, right? It's not exactly the HISD school board in these meetings. Am I right or am I wrong?
It's the board managers, yes.
Okay. And where are I mean, this is a silly question, and I know I should know the answer, but where is the elected school board? Where are all those guys, and where do they meet? Do they even meet? Do you know?
Well, when Miles came in, he got rid of all of them. So right now we don't have a school board. It's only the board of managers that make the decisions, and they do whatever Miles tells them to do. So it's hard on us because we can't very well get anything done. He will not meet with us. I have asked, when I first met him, I told him, we would like to work with you, sir, not against you. And he said, oh, yes, yes, yes. Well, he has not met with us once. He goes to the board meetings, and we tell him what every time I go and tell him, I talk to him in a nice way, in a respectful way. There's people that go over there and tell him he's a liar, he's a coward. I can't do that. My beautiful mother taught me, you respect people even if they don't deserve to be respected. So
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to have you come on the show. I think we should do a show on what's going on with HISD, because I do know enrollment is down, but I don't know if it's down because demographics, meaning, you know, there's fewer kids, or I don't know if it's down because of vouchers, but at the end of the day, I do know enrollment is down. Let me ask you, Evan, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot or anything, but is there a position, something you've written about, and you know, what's y'all's view on the whole HISD?
Our view is that, you know, we have to remember that all this happened in a larger historic context where we had a small group of schools that were consistently running into trouble, consistent failure in terms of school grades, and they just weren't educating kids and providing the movement up the economic ladder that you want to see. And the failure of this board, combined with struggles with providing special education services, combined with questionable behavior by board members and fighting on the board, or potential corruption on the board, there was an argument that a state takeover made sense. The problem that we've run into is that you have this top-down management from Mike Miles, which makes sense given his military background, but at the same time, he keeps moving the goalpost instead of just tackling this small group of schools. Like, well, okay, we expanded the feeder pattern for those schools, and well, that makes sense. And now there's a whole bunch of other schools being brought in, and parents are frustrated about that because that wasn't part of the original deal. And so just looking at in terms of success or failure, if you listen to Republicans, the people who run our state up in Austin, the watchword for education is choice. If you are doing a good job, parents will be moving into your school district. If you're doing a bad job, you'll be able to tell because they are moving out. If you are losing parents, if you're losing families in HIC, which has been happening, that is a sign that something is wrong. And then just this past week, we saw the federal government say they're investigating HISD for failure to deliver special education services, one of the very things that triggered the state takeover in the first place.
Wow.
Do we need a state takeover for the state takeover?
Oh,
it's
my
just
goodness.
things are not going well.
You know, do we need a federal takeover of the state takeover?
Exactly, and this is from an administration that wanted to get rid of the Department of Education. They didn't think the DOE should be doing anything, but the fact that they're going to get involved here shows that things must not be going well.
You know, I'm going to invite Mr. Miles. I don't know him. I have not met him, but I'm going to invite him. And let's just see, Carmen, if I can get, you know, a little bit more transparency than you're getting. And you know what? I'm going to cut you off a little early only because I think I want to have you on the show. Would you like to be on my show?
Yes. Can I say one more thing?
Yes.
Okay. Right now, I'm dealing with the Northside High School has been without an air condition for 2 months. And this is some of the things that he's doing to our schools. And with all due respect to the guy from the Chronicle, the schools weren't going down. He brought them down by getting rid of our good teachers and our good principals and just doing whatever he decided to do without,
Well,
it was just his opinion.
you're going to have a lot more to say because I'm going to get you on the air. So
Okay.
I'm going to work with you on that. And thank you for calling in.
Okay, y'all have a good day.
You too. We have, I think, Anise Parker. Mayor Parker, are you there? Anise Parker, are you there?
Hey, Gilbert. Good morning. How are you?
My mayor. I'm doing great. This is me, Gilbert Garcia, with a tip for me, with Evan Mintz, who, of course, we all know from the Houston Chronicle. And Mayor, first of all, how are you feeling?
You know, I'm feeling great, but antsy. You know, this is the point of a campaign where the ball is rolling around the roulette wheel. And there's almost nothing you can do to change its trajectory. So I'm feeling great, but you know, until the votes are counted on Tuesday, I will not relax.
Well, you know, it's kind of like that song, I feel good. Dun, 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 dun. That's how you're feeling. But you know what, Mayor? I think I love
I'm not feeling that good. It's not over yet.
I understand. But, you know, I like the concept of the roulette wheel because soon it's going to stop turning and that ball's going to land. And we're going to know all that really tomorrow night. And I want to make sure, I got to get this in, that everybody knows, Houston and Harris County, that Election Day is tomorrow for the runoffs. And Anise Parker's on the ballot. There's also Republicans on the ballot. So please, no matter who you're voting for, of course, everybody knows I'm voting for Anise Parker, but no matter who you're voting
Well,
for.
there are other Democrats on the ballot.
That's right.
The most important thing is people just need to go out and vote.
Yes, right.
I really don't care which primary they're in. If they're voting in the Democratic primary, I really want them to vote for me for Harris County Judge, but just to show up and vote because the turnout is going to be pitiful. And it means that every vote counts more. You know, my opponent cannot beat me. Low turnout, however, can make me lose.
Very interesting point. Well, let me ask you, Mayor, I mean, at the end of the day, you've been mayor, you've been city controller, you've been a council person, you've been a leader in the community, you've been a community activist and so forth. You know, you've got to be, at least in my opinion, one of the most prepared persons to really run and to serve as county judge. What do you think is the main difference in your mind between a county judge, who I guess is a chief executive officer of the county, and the mayor, which is the chief executive officer of the city?
That is a great question, and I have to answer that all the time. And that is, the mayor, particularly the mayor of Houston, is in charge in the city. The mayor is the chief executive, and every city employee reports to the mayor. The mayor hires and fires the police chief and the fire chief and the finance director, and up and down the line. The county judge is more of a chair of the board, and there are 4 board members who are the county commissioners, and they actually have the operating functions of Harris County. The county judge is more of an administrator. You are the presiding officer, but your job is to make sure that the workflow in the county moves forward. And a lot of the functions that the city has, that again, I said the police chief that the mayor hires and fires. We have an independently elected sheriff in Harris County and the independently elected constables. The county commissioners court sets their overall budget, but cannot direct them how to spend it. So the number of independent elected officials in the county, it's really about communication and collaboration and coordination instead of just raw authority. And that makes it a fundamentally different position. But the services that the county provides and the services that the city provide are fundamental to human beings being are able to live together in one place, which is why I find it so fascinating.
Well, I know, because I know you well, you've always been able to work across the aisle, as they say, all different people on the spectrum. So I think this is going to be like your strength. To be able to work with everyone and all those commissioners. So I think it'd be great. One more question, if you don't mind.
So.
Go ahead.
Well, go ahead and ask me another question. I hope so. You know, as I get older, I do have less tolerance for just, non-serious people.
And somehow there's a lot of that going on in Washington. But I'm going to give, I have one more question, but I'm going to see, Evan, is there anything you wanted to ask the mayor? Any comments you have for her real quick?
Evan's grilled me before.
I've been grilling Mayor Parker for decades now, and I'm just struck by the number of people who this is their first time having her on the ballot, whether they've moved to Houston recently, Harris County recently, or whether they are new voters who were not involved in, any election from, was it like 2013 back through the 90s. And so I guess, I've got a question for Mayor Parker, which is, what is it that people are bringing to you who have never voted for you before that is different than voters in the past, elections in the past?
The issues really aren't different. It's where people get their information and the influence of social media. I mean, that is, I've been out of office 10 years. Last time I was on a ballot was 12 years ago. And social media was there. There were bloggers there, but there's so many different information streams, and everybody's in their echo chamber. And it's, how they interact, how they find each other, how they communicate around politics is fundamentally has fundamentally changed. And then the other thing is that politics has always been a blood sport, but the ugly side of politics I don't think has ever been as visible because again it couldn't be amplified.
Right.
Very interesting. Well, Mayor, I have one more for you, which is there's just one big difference that jumps out at me. If I'm not mistaken, the city of Houston is about 660 square miles or something of that amount, which is huge. But when you think of the county, it's probably, I don't know, I think it's like 1,200 square miles or something just enormous.
I think it's more like 14.
Is it 14? I mean, it's something humongous, right? And are you able, and I know you've been really one of the hardest working candidates I've seen. Are you everywhere? I mean, you got to be all over, but it's such a huge territory, a huge footprint.
You have pointed out a problem. I mean, it's, if someone's running statewide in Texas, and let's go back to the Beto O'Rourke campaign where he made a big deal, rightly so, of, he was going to campaign in every county, he was going to go everywhere, and that impresses people because what happens when you have limited time and limited resources is you go where the voters are. And we are doing that, but I'm also trying to hit as many different parts of Harris County. There are 34 cities in Harris County.
Wow.
And, we maintain a map, and I'm trying to make sure that I, touch every one of those, do something in every one of those cities, over the last 11 months. And so I can't reach everybody. I can't talk to everybody. And I do have to follow some of the conventional wisdom. I have to go where the voters are. But deliberately, I try to go to as many places. And I do a lot of my events is at what we call house party fundraising. So it's, or just house parties, not even fundraisers. So you're in someone's home and you have an opportunity. They can tell you about where the flooding is in the neighborhood and what the crime problems are in the neighborhood, and you can actually see it for yourself. So I'm doing my best to get the broad view, but it really is the kind of the 30,000 foot. People ask me all the time, what is the first thing you're going to do as the Harris County judge? And the first thing is about evaluating the staff that's there and who I need to make sure that I can get the job done, because any executive, but particularly any public official, the people who work for you they make or break you. So there's that. Then I want to visit every county facility as rapidly as possible, again, just to see where they are, how they're situated, who uses them, what their condition is, and then also circle back through all of those, the cities, to make sure that every mayor knows who I am, how to find me, because the one thing that is unique to county judge positions, and it is analogous to the mayor, is that in an emergency, but even in an emergency in Harris County, the county judge is over the entire emergency response for the county. And I want to, when I was mayor, the Center for Houston's Future used to host a quarterly dinner, private dinner, where I sat with the county judges of the 4 surrounding counties, and we would hash out issues. We made sure everybody knew how to contact each other when there was a problem. And when you know each other, you don't deal with an emergency in the moment. Well, you do, but the best way to deal with it is before it happens. And so where you can give each other grace, you understand how people operate. And I don't think that that's been happening. And I want to do my best to reestablish that network where the local leadership that needs to be engaged when there's a problem is engaged beforehand.
Well, and it's the only way to build relationships and build trust, and that's what it takes to really lead and to lead all these other neighboring counties. I think that's fantastic. Well, Anise Parker, thank you for calling in, and soon you're going to be Judge Parker. Well, we're going to get the nomination first, which is tomorrow night. Again, Houston, Harris County, make sure you vote. Vote. And please correct me.
Vote. Please just vote in either primary, but just vote. But if you're voting in the Democratic primary, hey, and Gilbert, I have to tell you, I was at church yesterday morning, and I wish I could remember the guy's name. One of your listeners came up and introduced himself and said he had first heard my name on your show.
Ah, how great! How great! Well, Mayor, just remind us: is this a correct statement, or Evan, that voters can vote at any poll? Is that correct for tomorrow?
Yes.
Okay, so they can vote.
Thank God for technology.
Yeah, and so they can go to.
This was a very short early voting period.
Yes. Well, Mayor Parker, thank you for calling in, and we wish you Godspeed and tremendous success tomorrow.
And to anyone and to everyone, we don't celebrate Memorial Day; we commemorate Memorial Day. So I hope everyone takes a moment to remember why this holiday exists.
Amen.
And that is for our war dead. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Parker. Evan, let me just go back if you don't mind.
Yes.
So where can people get the information on the Chron about where to go? What's the website? Or is it, do y'all have it up on your site, or is it Harris County Votes? Or?
I mean, the formal site is harrisvotes.com.
Okay,
if you go to houstonchronicle.com, particularly tomorrow morning, once voting starts, we're going to have all sorts of information about where to go, about the polling show, the Houston Chronicle editorial board endorsements. You can print out our fact sheets on the candidates, particularly because you're not supposed to bring your phone into the voting booth. You can also make a custom list for yourself, where you can go through, put in your address. It'll tell you who's going to be on the ballot, and you can click the candidates who you want to vote for so that you have all their names, because this is a short ballot in terms of Harris County elections, where we have 90, 100 races on there because of the judicial races, but this is a primary runoff. It's just about a dozen for Democrats and Republicans, but we still want to remember all the candidates.
Well, one of the things that I had to correct the record for people out there that were responding about the Chronicle, and they were just assuming, well, they only endorse Democrats. That's not true.
Oh, no.
In fact, y'all do an enormous work to look at all candidates, and you make your choices about really who y'all think are the best candidates. But you do a lot of research. Y'all screened me and all. I mean, I remember all those things. So let's just go through. Over the past, I wrote that y'all have endorsed people like Orlando Sanchez.
Right.
And is he endorsed now?
Well, he's endorsed now. He's running in the Republican primary to run against Mayor Parker in the general in November, and he's an impressive candidate. He's been elected county treasurer 3 times. He was on city council. He's run for mayor, gotten real close a few times, and he's just someone who knows the issues, has been very direct about the need for fiscal responsibility in government, and he's come out and taken some bold positions when he met with the editorial board, talking about the value of looking at overlapping law enforcement agencies that we have in the county. If you want to cut waste, fraud, and abuse in county government, you've got to realize that we have this system of constables and city police and the sheriff's office where it's all overlapping, and they have overlapping responsibilities, and no one would have made this from square one. If you ask someone to make a law enforcement system for Harris County today, it would not look like this. It's a weird fluke of history, and Republicans are often very reluctant to say anything that could even come off as potentially critical of law enforcement these days. But if you look back in the 90s, Republicans were very critical about this system, and you had state legislators holding hearings about the roles of the constables' offices. You had a few rural counties getting rid of their constable agencies entirely. And to have someone come in and say the county budget is tighter than it's ever been because we've given raises to law enforcement, we have this revenue cap from the state. If you want to find efficient government, this is going to be a big thing to take on. It's going to be tough, but he's at least willing to bring it up as a topic of conversation, and that's really valuable.
And you've endorsed other Republicans like I had said Tom Ramsey, Steve Raddick. And so this concept of you only endorse Democrats is false.
Right. Well, right now it's a primary, so we're endorsing Democrats in the Democratic primary, Republicans in the Republican primary. But if you look back to 1972, the Houston Chronicle has never endorsed a Democrat for county judge in the general election. It's always been Republicans.
Is that correct?
That's absolutely right. And part of it is because we have a bias towards incumbency. We really think if you're good at the job, there's not a reason to fire you. So we've just been endorsing folks through, been some good county judges. And if you look at the presidential elections, that's usually where people go. It was Republicans from Lyndon Johnson all the way through the first Obama administration, endorsed Obama in 2008, Romney in 2012, and then it's been Democrats 2016, 2020, 2024. But a lot of that is because Houston is a city of trade. We are a city of growth, of immigration. And if you are thinking, well, free markets, free people, that's usually been the Republican position. But Trump changed that. We've had a political realignment. And so the Houston Chronicle editorial board position is kind of in this no man's land. There's nobody who really aligns where with we want to be, where with Houston is. You have your sort of more free marketer Democrats, your pro-growth, they call them abundance bros. I think that the Houston Chronicle is pretty well aligned there. Your old school Republicans who recognize the value of pro-business also means you want to welcome people from around the world to work in your businesses, to start new businesses. You want that fresh ideas and new energy coming in. That's something that served Houston well. But it's no political party really has that right now, particularly not in Texas.
You know, I think, I know you live this, but it seems to me, I think the people of Houston and Harris County need to know what you just said. Everything you just said about, and, you know, from these presidential candidates, from Lyndon Johnson, here, I just think people need to know they got to correct the record, that really you call it like you see it.
Yeah.
Rather than, well, we're just I'm just going through the BS, but a liberal wing, this and that. Clearly, you're not.
Well, often I feel like that liberal might be a good description and kind of that European political science way of thinking about being a liberal. Yes, free markets and free ideas and free people. Is it chaotic? Is it hard? Yes. It is tough to live in a city where you're going to have a whole lot of people whose fundamental values and religion is different than yours, but that has been the secret sauce for America for coming up on 250 years.
What a great thing. Well, I just think that would be a little story or something to just let people know just the facts.
Yeah.
Just the facts. And going back for a second, I also just think that we're going to break that record, and I think we're going to have a Democratic endorsement for county judge.
We'll see. We'll have to have them, presuming that Parker and Sanchez make it through their primary runoffs. We're going to have them side by side at that Houston Chronicle editorial board table, and we're going to ask them what they're going to do if they win in November.
Very good. Well, let me ask you this. One thing also you've written about this before because I've seen it before, but I think one thing that the public doesn't realize is how much diversity there is on the whole editorial board.
Right.
And all the people that are part of the process. I don't know if board's the right word. But at the end of the day, how many people there are making this endorsement? And how do y'all do it? Do you just, getting around in the room? I'm just making it up. And if there's secret sauce, don't say. But at the end of the day, I'm just curious. Do you vote? I mean, is it secret ballot? I mean, and who are all the people on there? And what are their types of backgrounds?
Well, there are 7 people on the editorial board. And I like to think of it almost like a judicial panel because we have our own perspectives and our own ideas. But a lot of it is trying to apply the historic values of the Houston Chronicle editorial board to new circumstances. We're looking back at what the precedent is. And if we're going to deviate from that, well, we've really got to explain why. But there's me. I'm a lifelong Houstonian, I've had a background, spent a brief amount of time in the Harris County Prosecutor's Office as a baby lawyer. I spent time at Arnold Ventures. It's a policy think tank, a philanthropy, but mostly I've been at the Houston Chronicle writing about Houston. We have our deputy editor is Raj Mankat. He has a background in urbanism. He was at Site Magazine, if you remember, that was an architecture magazine. He really understands the issues of what it means to live in a city and how do we build our city, and thinking rigorously about how you make a city that serves all of its people. You have Lisa Gray, who's our op-ed editor. She has been a Houston journalist forever. She went to Rice. She wrote a little bit in D.C. before coming back here. She's been at the Chronicle. She's been on the Houston Press. She's been on podcasts. She's all over the place, and she knows Houston, I'd say, better than anyone else out there. We have Regina Lankenau, who is actually from Mexico, but she's a writer here. She went to Princeton. She's an incredible journalist and cares deeply about our city and reporting on the parts of Houston that reflect where most people live, how most people live their lives, but don't always make headlines. So trying to poke at that. One of the things that she is tackling right now are conditions for renters in Houston. Majority of Houstonians rent. Half of all people in Harris County rent. But if you look at what it is the politicians talk about, it's typically about homeowners, your property taxes, and things that reflect that part of Houston, but it overlooks the challenges for people who rent their homes. And so trying to dive more into that and how justice of the peace courts impact housing. We have Leah Binkovitz, who has a background at the Kinder Institute. She's actually getting her doctorate. She's writing a thesis on the rodeo. So she has this incredible depth of knowledge and this sort of academic's view on Houston and Texas history. And I don't know if you've been reading our editorial series calling Declaring Independence about Houston and Texas as a place that really embodies the values of America as we head up to our 250th Declaration of Independence celebration, but also pointing out how a lot of politicians in Austin, they want to narrow the scope of Texas history. They want to make it fit in neat partisan talking points. Say, well, Texas is a place that's always been pro-business and small government and pro-growth. Like, yes, that is part of it. We also had cowboys who went on strike because they didn't like their working conditions. We had Hispanic laborers going on massive strikes in San Antonio. We've had the farm workers movement. We've had immigrants coming across the sea from Germany after the revolutions of 1848, founding socialist communes in the Hill Country. That's also part of our history, and it's weird and interesting and fun, and all of us are downstream from that. And historically, Texans, even conservative Texans, could look at this history with a bit of a smile on their face and say, yeah, Texas is weird and complicated, and that's what we love about it. But now there's this fear of our own past, and we shouldn't be afraid of our past. We should be honest about it and reflect on how it led us to where we are right now.
That's right. Even if it's the good, the bad, and the ugly,
Exactly.
The point is learn from it, and you don't repeat it. But I think we got to learn from it to know where we've come from. I mean, it was a tough time. You said a couple of things. First of all, I know Raj. He is first class. And,
yes.
The great thing about him, and Raj, if you're out there, I'm not going to fanboy you, but I guess I am. You've always been accessible. And I think that's a big part of it, just to be accessible. And I could say Lisa Gray is tremendous. I mean, she's just sharp as a whip, but she's pleasant. She's just fantastic.
She's great.
She is so great. And Lisa, I know you may, if you're listening, I'm not, fanboying you either, but at the end of the day, it's true. You've been nothing but kind, but you're also very sharp, and you'll ask the pointed questions. And so I know those two, and they're fantastic.
They're great. And we also have Nick Powell, who's a longtime reporter, first from New York, then Galveston, now here in Houston. He's had a real great focus on local politics and also water issues, which are more and more important in our state. And also Sharon Steinman, who is our videographer. And if you look at those Pulitzer packages that won, the one on railroad crossings, the videos she make are a critical part of that. And particularly in the year 2026, what Mayor Parker was saying, that people get their information in ways that they didn't before, and a lot of that is video. And so we're making sure that we're not just writing, We're making video. We're doing short form. We're on your Instagram. We're on your TikTok. We're on your Facebook. We're on your Twitter. We want to be on any screen you're looking at.
So let me ask you this. This may sound like an unfair question, but I don't mean it to be. So how does one prepare to be on the editorial board? I mean, how does that happen? Obviously, they're all well-rounded. Obviously, they're very knowledgeable. But does someone say, I'm applying for this?
Yeah. Yeah, you have to apply for the job. There will be vacancies, and we will hire people to be on there. And a lot of it is, one, you have to be a great writer. That's an important part of it. But it's people who care about public policy, care about people, and care about Houston, and have the ability to write an opinion that isn't necessarily their own. Sometimes you'll find yourself saying, the editorial board position is that, LNG exports are good. And that's a pretty obvious position for being in Houston. But you can have someone who's a real environmentalist who thinks that they don't want any new fossil fuels. Like, well, can you write a convincing editorial in the voice of the Houston Chronicle editorial board that has a position that's different from the one you feel in your heart?
Very interesting.
And so that's a challenge.
Well, let me ask you this. So when you're there, is there a lot of give and take and people make their case? I've never been in a jury, but I've seen 12 Angry Men. I mean, you think about a jury where people make their case. Is that how it works? If someone says, "Well, I make a case for Mayor Parker," or "I make a case for Abby Kamen," and then people say, "Well, I don't agree with that." I mean, how does it? What's the give and take?
We have these big conversations when we come to hard decisions. Sometimes we already know what the position is, so it's applying the precedent's opinion to new facts, and it's pretty straightforward. And we'll talk about, well, what's the right way to talk about this? What's the right language? What's the best argument? Who's the audience? Who are we trying to reach in this? But sometimes we'll get these more heated conversations around endorsements, around just editorial board positions, and not just, what should the position be, knowing everything we know, but what is the right way to talk about it?
Very interesting. And are you like, this is maybe an unfair question too, and I don't mean it to be, but are you like the Chief Justice and you assign now that we have this opinion of a big case, I'm going to assign it to this person? I mean, do you assign these things to different writers, or do you generally write all the main ones yourself? I mean, how does that work?
Mostly assigning to writers, but also they have kind of informal and some formal portfolios that they take on. And so it's their job to track what's going on, and then at our meetings sort of bring up, this is something that's happening in my world. But also I'll have things that catch my attention and say, hey, this is in your portfolio. What do you think of this? Should we write about this? And every now and then something big will break and we say, we got to get on this really quickly so we can help shape the conversation in a smart way for Houston. You write this, can you turn it around in just a couple hours?
Very good. A couple of hours. Is it that quick?
Sometimes.
Wow. That's a lot of pressure. Not to mention, that's just, that's a lot of intensity.
Well, and there's also having to strike that balance between we're writing something with a quick turnaround to shape the conversation today, and then there are pieces where we are spending a lot of time doing our research, doing the reporting on the ground, getting out into the community, talking to experts to really have a sort of full take on something that provides a perspective and information you would not have had otherwise. But sometimes the best thing we can do is to take a whole bunch of stories and reporting that's already out there and thread them together in a way where maybe you had not seen it as a Houstonian, and we can make something relevant to Houstonians that otherwise just seems like a bunch of disparate stories happening all at once.
Very interesting. I think it's just fascinating, and I think this is another, I don't mean to be probing at all, if you don't mind.
Well, that's why I'm here.
Well, I appreciate that. But I think that people need to know, which is, people don't realize how much work you put into these endorsements. And, is a cycle, it's like before an election, you start like a year in advance. I mean, you are so, y'all are interviewing so many candidates.
Right.
And all that takes prep time before to get the questions that you want to ask. Then comes you're videotaping it. Then I don't know if you go back and look at the video, and then you discuss, and then you got to write it. I mean, it's got to be almost like a whole 9-month process or something. It's a lot.
And the real challenge is those down ballot races for judicial candidates, because for members of Congress, for Senate, a lot of reporting's already happening on them. There's a lot of information that's already out there. There isn't a lot of reporting on the judges. And so we call up a lot of lawyers. We talk to former judges. We really have to figure out what's going on in some of these races. We look at the data and stats out of people's courtrooms to see, are they moving cases? Do they have a big backlog? And sometimes they do have a backlog, and they can explain why. They can say, I was on a 3-month murder trial, and that led to a backup. Or they can say, yes, I go slowly, but I don't have a single lawyer complaining because I give each case the attention it needs, and they know that.
Very interesting.
And we do background checks on people. You know, you'd be surprised to see folks who have criminal records who they don't disclose. And then just also ask around, largely in the partisan community. Republicans know things about other Republicans, and Democrats know things about other Democrats. And trying to figure out what's going on there is always very useful.
That is fantastic. That is really in depth. It seems that people just need to know that you don't just make these things like, well, you know, that you really are putting in the time and you're doing the research and you're being thoughtful. I think I congratulate you.
Well, thank you. And, you know, my real hope is that, you know, you can get your endorsement slate from the LGBT caucus or the C Club or anyone else. But with the Houston Chronicle, we explain it. We write it. And you can read our justification for it. And then you can say, I agree, I disagree. And I've had folks who, you know, we wrote strong endorsements saying don't vote for them. And they go like, well, all the reasons you don't want to vote for that person, it makes me want to vote for them. Like, well, at least we gave you the info you needed.
Well, that's very, very interesting. We have another caller here. We have Rochelle Carter.
Hi.
Rochelle,
Hello.
can you hear me?
Yes. I'm sorry I'm outside. I was putting up signs.
Ah!
Can you hear me okay?
You're doing the work.
I'm actually outside.
You're definitely working hard there. And you are a candidate for Fort Bend County Judge?
Yes, I am. We need to make a difference in the change on that commissioner's court. So yes.
And you're the Democratic candidate.
Yes, I am.
You're
Uh-huh.
in the runoff,
primary.
in the primary.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
in the runoff, which is
And the runoff,
ends
excuse me.
tomorrow.
Well, let me
Yes.
ask you this, Judge. First of all, what are your top 2 or 3 things? I haven't met you before, but I'm so glad you called in the show. What are the top 2 or 3 things that you want to bring to the whole court there?
Oh, well, fiscal responsibility. We need to make sure our tax dollars are being spent wisely and being accountable for them. You know, public safety. You know, I've been living in Fort Bend County for over 24 years, and everybody wants to feel safe. And we can't do that unless our first responders have the money that they need in order to make sure that they retain and they have the equipment that they need. And so fiscal responsibility, public safety, and infrastructure. We are a growing county, and we need to make sure that our infrastructure is keeping up with growth. So those are my 3 priorities.
Way to go. And so how's it looking for you? What's the latest? And go ahead. I'm going to let you go. Go.
No. I was going to say, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No.
If you, I really don't pay attention. To me, I feel that, I'm going to make it. I'm going to be the nominee. I don't know, but what I am, if I could tell people right now, please go out and vote. Please look me up, RochelleCarterCampaign.com. I feel like I want to be the people's champion. I have never ran before, but I just got sick and tired of what I see is going on. We put people into office and they seem to be not accessible. They forget why they're put into that seat. So that is why I'm running. I'm running to change things for the good.
So you're just like sick and tired of being sick and tired, and so that's why you're just getting.
I hear from a lot of people out there. Yes.
Yeah, and so you're just getting up and you know what? I'm going to go make change. That's great. Well, how's the turnout so far? How's been the early vote?
Early vote has been steady. I didn't get to see the numbers for Thursday and Friday, but surprisingly, they're good. In my opinion, again, this is my first race that I'm running. So we need people to come out. Tuesday's the last day from 7 to 7. Come out and vote. Please come out and vote.
And is it the same as Harris County where you can vote in any polling place?
No, that was early voting. So that ended Friday. So now you got to find out exactly where your polling place is.
Okay, very good. So thank you for and if people want to look you up real quick and find out where your victory and celebration is, etc., what's your website? Give it to everybody here.
It's RochelleCarterCampaign.com. Again, that would be Rochelle, RACHELLE, Carter, CARTER, campaign, CAMPAIGN.com.
Wonderful. Well, we wish you great success, and I hope that you call back and come back on the show. And we got to know more about what's going on in Fort Bend because it is growing by
Absolutely.
leaps and bounds. There is
Yes,
no doubt.
yes, yes.
I've seen Missouri City grow. I see Sugar Land grow. It's just unbelievable.
Yes, yes.
So please call in again, and we wish you great success.
Thank you. Please go out and look me up. If you haven't looked me up, please go out and look me up on my campaign website, and I hope to earn your support. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you for calling in.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now. And so what's interesting is how much they're growing. In
Oh,
fact, the city of
absolutely.
Houston really is not growing. People don't
No,
realize.
the city itself is pretty stagnant. Though it's interesting, you can see all this new development happening, and a lot of it is we are building denser homes, but bigger homes. And so you will get a townhouse that's, say, 2,000 square feet and has 1 or 2 people in it, stacked next to each other, next to each other, next to each other, versus an old home that replaced an old bungalow, which would have been 1,600 square feet with a whole family in it.
Wow.
And so it is a reflection of society's growing wealth, that people expect bigger homes to live in, but also it shows the need to make sure that our city code keeps up. I thought it was great that we got a call from someone running for Fort Bend office because the Houston Chronicle editorial board has really been proactive on making sure that we are weighing in those other county races in Fort Bend because we know that's where a lot of growth is happening. She's running against Dexter McCoy in that Democratic primary for county judge. He's been an incredible candidate. He's the one who earned the Chronicle's endorsement in that race. He's a current county commissioner, and he's just very young. He's in his early 30s. He's got a lot of energy, a lot of passion, but also a lot of really good ideas about making sure that, say, the county government provides better maternal leave and paternal leave for employees, making sure that there are more community amenities for these growing neighborhoods, and also seeing if there's potential to get Fort Bend better plugged into mass transit systems.
Well, I think that's my
That's
my
your bread and
cue.
butter, yeah.
That's my cue. But ultimately, I think that's fantastic. And I just want to make sure people realize the Houston Chronicle not only is digital, but y'all still have a massive printing press.
Oh, yes.
And you print for everybody. I
Right.
mean, the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times. It's amazing. And are y'all getting a new press, or tell me about what's going on with the new
So
press?
we just got a new press down at East Chronicle. If people joke that print is dead, well, we just got a big new printer. And a lot of it is that if you need something printed, a lot of those big printing presses are gone. And also there's push to do better efficiency and consolidation. So we're printing Houston Chronicle, also San Antonio Express News, Austin American Statesman. If you're getting a New York Times, from here to Denver, odds are we've printed it and it gets shipped out. It also means that because we're printing so many things, it's kind of hard to stop the presses and get some late-breaking news in for the next day's print edition. So if an Astros game goes late, if election results don't get resolved until 2 in the morning, the best place to go for that is the website. That is constantly up to date. And we really are thinking digital first because that's the way people consume their information.
And are you going to have reporters on the ground at all the different parties and events? I mean, it's hard to cover everything, but I know you do your best that you can. Are you going to have people at different things watching the results and talking to the candidates all over Tuesday night?
For the newsroom, and they operate separately but in parallel with the opinion section. But I know that the newsroom has reporters on the ground at all of these parties. We're going to be watching in the opinion section the results. We're particularly going to be paying attention to that Paxton-Cornyn race and the Republican runoff to see who is going to be the Republican nominee for Senate, because I think that is going to be one of the most interesting stories on there. Also, the race for Railroad Commissioner, for the lack of a better word, nut job, this guy, Beau French, who other Republicans, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, said he's too anti-Semitic, too bigoted to be a county GOP chair, which had been his previous position. He's now running for Railroad Commissioner. And so we're going to see if he's able to make it through that runoff and win. If so, that says some really sad things about the state of the Republican Party these days.
Well, and also just people statewide. I mean, that they're just mean-spirited.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot more anti-Semitic type stuff going on. Obviously, I'm a Catholic, I'm Hispanic, but a lot of my Jewish friends are just, they're worried that somehow it's coming back, this hatred. I mean,
I think that America, particularly post World War II, after the Holocaust, and I'm Jewish, did an excellent job on a bipartisan basis across all sorts of civic institutions to push anti-Semitism and other forms of bigotry out of the spotlight. We have a First Amendment. We cannot make this stuff illegal, but we can say we don't have to put it in our newspaper, on our TV show. We don't have to have someone like this representing our institutions. And so that if you want to be this way and talk this way, it has to be in sort of the shadows of society. What social media has allowed is for these people who were previously forced into shadows to talk to each other, to talk to other people, and get a big megaphone that otherwise, NBC, CBS, CNN, newspapers would never have given them. And it used to be that media institutions had a sense of civic responsibility. There's this story about this fascist magazine from the 1930s called the American Mercury, which was spreading hatred and bigotry and anti-Catholicism and sort of all your typical hatred from the 1930s. And at a certain point, all the magazine distributors said, well, we're just not going to distribute this. If you want to send this to your subscribers, you do that on your own. We're not going to take your money. We're not going to help you out. We have a larger obligation to society. Facebook doesn't talk like that. Twitter doesn't talk like that. TikTok doesn't. All these social media accounts seem to have no sense of larger civic responsibility to say, hey, if you want to spread your hatred, you do it on your own dime. We're not going to help you out. In fact, there's a company that sold services to websites to protect them from denial of service attacks. When someone uses computers to make a whole bunch of attempts at access your website and causes it to crash. And this was to have been in 2016. The CEO of the company realized that they were selling their service to Stormfront, the neo-Nazi website. And he woke up one morning and said, we're not going to sell this to them anymore. We're not going to help them do this. And he put out this letter saying who has the duty, who has the responsibility to say who gets this sort of protection, who gets to speak out, who gets to control what's on the internet. And he goes, I don't think it's the government. I don't think it's necessarily the private sector. It's a really hard question to answer. But right now, this morning, I am answering the question of who is selling this service in my company to this neo-Nazi website, and we're not doing it.
You know what? Touche. What? That is so great. What courage.
Exactly.
Especially today. What courage. I salute them. Because it just seems to me that in this day and age, it's like okay to be a racist. It's okay
Yes.
to be, and it used to sort of be in the shadows, and it wasn't okay. But now it's like okay, but you know what? It's not okay.
It's not, and I really wish that these social media companies took more civic responsibility, but the problem is that their incentive is to get people to click things, and we know that negativity and outrage is an incredible driver, and so you have these algorithms that reward that, and that's very frustrating.
Wow. Well, you know what? It's hard to believe. It's been an hour. Can you believe it?
I can.
I mean, it's
This has
just
been a wonderful
unbelievable.
conversation.
I want to make sure I say to my good friends at Laredo Taqueria, I say Laredo Taqueria. Some people say Taqueria Laredo, tomato. But it does have the best carne guisada. And I am really disclosing, I don't get paid for any of that other than sometimes they'll bring me a taco. And you know what? That's all I need. Evan Mintz, you're such a gem. You are a real Houston treasure because you care
you. That
about.
means a lot coming
well,
from you.
You care a lot. And that's the first thing. And you give everyone a fair shake. And that's another important thing in your role, right? So, I mean it. You are a Houston treasure and Harris County treasure. I hope you do this for a long time because you know
too.
what? We need you.
Well, thank you very much, Gilbert, and I hope we keep doing this interview and these podcasts a long time too.
Well, thank you, my friend. And you got the last word. What do you want to say to Houston and Harris County?
Go read Houston Chronicle, HoustonChronicle.com. Follow us on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, on TikTok. Even if you don't want to subscribe, which you should, you can see what is happening in your city, where you live. Don't worry about the national news. Worry about where you live and the physical location of where you are.
Houston, Harris County, go get the Cron. It's got it going on. And I didn't know I was going to rhyme, but I did. There you go. Evan Mintz, thank you for joining us. This is Gilbert Garcia saying we're going to have a lot of FIFA, a lot of soccer coming up. I've got Chris Canetti from the whole FIFA. He's Mr. Soccer. I got Arlette Molina, who is doing all that fanfare stuff. On the East End, I'm going to have the head of the Houston Dash. So we're going to be ready, and we're going to be saying, go, in a big way. Gilbert Garcia is saying, we'll see you next time. All right, Houston, Harris County, this is Gilbert Garcia of A Tip from Gilbert, Talk, Inspiration, and Prayer.
Watch and hear my show on YouTube, Facebook, RSS, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Spotify.
And follow me on social media. See you then.